if you're struggling to approach her, you have probably Googled this quite a bit, and perhaps right now you have 10 conflicting ideas of what's the right way to approach a woman, 10 conflicting ideas of what's the right thing to say. And overall, when you get to the point where you recognize you have an opportunity to say hi, you just feel so much pressure because there's all this conflicting advice in your mind and you're not sure what to do. And so ultimately you don't do anything at all. So this video is all about simplification. It's actually how can we take a step back from this and instead focus on 3 simple strategies for you to make approaching women feel and be easier. Hi, I'm dating coach Hayley Quinn, creator of the Attraction Point program. I'm going to be talking to you about 3 strategies to relieve the stress around meeting women and make it a much smoother and easier process. So before I go into those strategies, I want to just share one of my favorite quotes with you. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. The idea of this is if you can get hung up on taking perfect action or having to have the perfect thing to say to her or just, having your skills 100%, chances are this is actually going to get in the way of you taking any action at all. And from my position as your dating coach, what's actually more important by far than having a perfect line is you consistently and regularly taking action and gaining some experiences. So here's another one of my favorite quotes. An ounce of action is worth a ton of theory. So really, when you are a beginner, which is a great place to be, instead of getting too far ahead of yourself and thinking about how to make this really great or the best it could possibly be, you should think, well, I'm going to make it 80% okay. And more importantly, I'm going to take the action because that's my learning point at the moment. My learning point is learning to get started. Once I've started, then I can refine things. So it's, again, a little bit about your process around developing this as a skill. So what are some things you can do to make starting talking to women easier for you? The first thing you can think about is what I call integration. Now, integration is making this part of your everyday life as opposed to allocating exact moments in time to do things. Now, I've coached a lot of men and a lot of women about how to meet people in real life. And time again, I find that if you have a thing where you're like, right, for 3 hours every Saturday, I'm going to practice approaching women, chances are you'll get to that slot of time and you'll freeze because it will feel like too much pressure. So instead, I want you to think about how you can swap that in for substitutions where you actually just put yourself in environments where you're more likely to interact with women. So for instance, instead of working at home on your laptop, could you take your laptop and just work in a busy coffee shop or a co-working space in the nearest town? Instead of, again, working out at home or doing like some independent exercise or being on the gym floor, could you join an exercise class that, okay, maybe the weights and body pump aren't quite as like hefty as you're normally used to lifting, but again, it means that you have more opportunity for social interaction. So rather than making a big thing about it, just start to think about how you can put yourself in environments where you're more likely to interact with women and it therefore feels more integrated into your everyday life. The second strategy that I want you to think about is about trying to practice in environments where you have some context. So context means there's kind of like a reason you could think to speak to someone. The best example of this is imagine your best friend's birthday party and he introduces you to an attractive woman. You'll probably find it about 1,000 times easier to talk to her there than if she was walking down you past the street. The reason for that is you have some context. You're both got a shared friendship circle, an introduction has been made, so it feels loads easier and also is easier than if you just see someone passing by. You may not always have best friends that have birthday parties though, so you have to look for places where you have more context. So there's nothing wrong with developing these skills by going to things like singles events or like networking events or speed dating. Yes, it may not be the rock star, I can meet a woman anywhere stuff, but it is actually a stepping stone towards that. So again, instead of having this ideal of I should be able to meet women anywhere, let's dial it back. Let's choose environments where you have some context, build some confidence there, and then push yourself forwards. The final strategy to make this a lot easier for you to approach women is to let go of this idea of having to have a great first line. Yes, sometimes having a witty, cool thing to say helps to make a good first impression, as does good body language and good styling. These are all things that are helpful. But ultimately, there's plenty of interactions that go extremely well when a guy just says hi, or hey, can you watch my laptop for a second? Oh, thanks for that. I'm Adam, by the way. Sometimes really incredibly simple, dare I say, indirect, innocuous conversation starters, which you may have been told are kind of like wimpy or lame, sometimes they work fine. So again, I would rather that you use a suboptimal conversation starter that still works 80% as well as an incredible conversation starter, and you start the conversation rather than you sit there thinking, oh man, like what is the clever thing I can say right now? If you're at this stage, which is a great stage, it's an exciting stage to be at in terms of meeting women, you really, really, really want to focus on how you can just get past that first block of taking action. As you can see, I have developed these techniques with my team over a decade of coaching people how to meet one another in real life. We have some fantastic in real life training events if you happen to be able to get to London, called Training Day. These are small, cool taster workshops that you can try out. If, however, you live a little bit too far away to do that, I would highly recommend you head over to hayleyquinn.com/attraction, where I'm able to give you lots and lots of free and purposeful advice about how you can really get started at meeting women in a way that is cool, modern, and respectful.